We are live, and it is our Wednesday JKS Live, Josh and Katie showing it live, however you want to go about it. And today I have a very important question for you. Do you ever sit around trying to figure out what you want to post and you feel like you just can't come up with anything? Do you go around, trying to get inspiration and you can't figure out, what to do? Nothing jumps out at you. You can't come up with any ideas. Has that ever happened to you? Because I can tell you what, it happens to me a lot. It used to happen to me a lot. And what I found was 3 easy steps to come up with endless content ideas. And so, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to give you those 3 tips on what to do to come up with endless content. I'm going to show you a little trick that I have as well towards the end, kind of how to keep those things in line so you don't lose it. So, for those of you that really haven't been around or haven't seen us all that much, my name's Josh. My wife Katie and we are network marketers, and we help coach and mentor other network marketers on how to build their business more effectively using social media. And we also do build our own business at the same time. So we're kind of double duty, I guess you could say. But today, like I said, we're going to go ahead and give you some tips and some inspiration on how to kind of keep things rolling in your own business. And, for us, that's we do this every week, usually around 8 p.m., have some sort of topic to be able to help you move your business forward. One of the things that we like to do just to help out, it's our free value that we want to provide to our audience. So I'm going to kind of get right into this, but first I just want to talk about that, for me, content creation was always a blocker. I always had these just mental blocks that I couldn't figure out really where to draw inspiration from. I'd see people posting all the time, sitting there, talking about all these things that they've got going on, talking about all this, the stuff going on in their lives. They've, posting questions and things like that. And I think to myself, where did they come up with this stuff? Right. And recently, I had gone through some training and some workshops and things like that. And there was something that stuck out to me. And I kind of thought to myself, like, I wonder if that's the ticket. I wonder if that's how people can really create endless content like this. And some of it does involve research. Some of it does involve going out and finding the actual content itself that pertains to what you're thinking about. But what I will say is the majority of it comes from you, and you are going to have to be able to come up with those ideas, but you don't have to do it in a blank sense, like a blank slate kind of thing. You can really find this stuff anywhere. You can find content anywhere in your life, whether it's hobbies, whether it's friends, family, whatever. So that kind of leads us into the first tip, and the biggest thing is, like, when we're talking about creating content, you think to yourself, well, how do I come up with these ideas, right? But take a step back a little bit and think about, well, what are you trying to come up with? And what do you have in your life that you could maybe draw from, right? And that was one of the things that I struggled with, is I wasn't thinking of it that way. I was just trying to, make things just materialize in my brain and say, content, go. And it didn't work that way. It never works that way. And so one of the things that I realized was that you have to get inspiration from somewhere, right? So that's tip number one or step number one, I guess you could say. It's kind of a 3-step, not really 3 tips, but more like a 3-step process. So step number one is inspiration. And when we talk about inspiration, I don't know, I always struggled with that, because people go, well, what inspires you? And you try to think of the best answer, right? But there really is no right answer, because it's all up to you. It's all what inspires you personally. So when I think about what inspires me, there's a lot of things. My kids inspire me. My wife inspires me. But I'm not going to always just talk about my kids and my wife. So I had to think about, well, what else inspires me, right? Well, one of the things that you probably saw, earlier today is that barbecue. I love barbecue. Barbecue is something that is, I've always really been into it, but I actually now make it a lot. And I get a lot of inspiration from other professional cooks. Let's just not other professional cooks, but professional cooks in general. I am no professional. No matter what people will say, I am no professional by any means. But other people who do, anything in terms of barbecue. Hey, Mike, what's going on, man? Thanks for popping on live. Appreciate it. So the cool thing is, like, when I look at these guys and I see what they're doing and I see the kind of process they go through and how intricate it is, it inspires me to do something of my own with barbecue. Maybe that's a brisket and I decide to go out and say, hey, go get this brisket, right? Or maybe I see a movie trailer and that inspires me to go see that movie. Or maybe I, see someone out running and I'm like, oh man, I should probably go get on the treadmill or something. Those things that spark that inspiration inside of you, even though some people don't realize it, that's the inspiration. That's the inside of you perking up and saying, oh, that inspires me. I should do this. I should do that. So the biggest thing that you really have to keep in mind is think about what inspires you through the day, and then start thinking about what things that you could put that into your content. So for example, a big thing that you could do with, let's say, like running on the treadmill, right? Well, you could make that inspiration to a post about maybe like a DMO, like a daily method of operation, maybe a morning routine or something like that. And, go from there. Or when it comes to barbecue, a good one is like the process that goes into preparing good barbecue. Like Mike said, love barbecue. Which thank you, Mike. Great page and content. I love that, man. I appreciate that. We do definitely try to provide value here. So thanks for pointing that out there. So when we talk about barbecue, there's a process in place to make good barbecue. You can't just go out and say, hey, here's a brisket. I just threw it on the grill for 15 hours. How does it taste? You got to prep it. You got to trim the fat. You got to, go through and season it. And sometimes people inject it and all these things. Well, when you think about that like your business, right? Well, you got to trim the fat. So you got to get rid of the negativity. You got to get rid of, things like people that are really bringing you down in life. And I don't always mean like get rid of them, like cut them out completely, but limit the exposure, right? When you're talking about injecting the good sauce into the brisket, maybe that's the, you reading books and listening to podcasts and things like that to inject that positivity in you, So you can see where I'm connecting the inspiration, right? So when you have the inspiration and you're trying to connect it to something, what that's called is that's the intention. So you take step number 2. So you've got your inspiration. You went and found something that you love. Now, step number 2 is to find that intention. So the intention would be like the brisket talk. That would be more going on into like, how do you prepare yourself for business, for being a successful entrepreneur or successful network marketer or affiliate marketer, whatever it is that you do. How do you prepare yourself for that? What do you do to ensure that you're staying consistent in your business? A thing with like the running piece I talked about, that could be inspiration for a, daily method of operation or a morning routine. So maybe that intention is to utilize that and say, you know what, the other day I was out running, out going for a walk. You weren't running maybe, or maybe you were. But you say, I saw this guy running and you know what? It inspired me because it made me think of, it was 7:30 in the morning. I was on my way to go get a cup of coffee with a friend, and that dude's got to get up early, get out there, get running. That's inspiration to get somebody to talk about a morning routine or a daily, method of operation. And so when you're thinking about your inspiration and intention, that's where you can start deriving just anything in your daily life into content. You can start looking at things, movies, music. Like a big one for me is music. I love music. I may not be popular opinion, but I'm a total heavy metal dude. I love just rocking out. I love just the heavy guitars, the screams, or even some of the guys, those low growls. Not a lot of people like that music, but I do. And I draw inspiration from it. And I'll even go and listen really intently to the lyrics. And if I find something that really stands out to me, I'll jot that down and say, hey, this song stood out to me. How can I use that for my content later? And sometimes people don't even realize that was the form of my inspiration, because I don't always mention that. Now, you don't have to leave it out, or you can leave it out. It's really up to you. But take that step 1, find out what inspires you. And I even challenge you to write a list of all the things that inspire you And then start looking at that day in and day out. Start going around and saying like, oh, you're going out for hanging out with a friend, or you're taking your kids to the park, or you're going on a date with your wife or your husband or significant other, or whatever it is. And you're out there, and just keep your ears open, right? Start listening for things that are in line with that inspiration, and start thinking like, how can I put that into something? How can I turn that into content for my audience? And so when you're looking at the intention, that's where you can turn around and say, hey, this thing fits really well into this topic I was thinking of the other day. I should totally mesh those two together. And so I told you earlier, I was going to talk about step 3, right? 3 steps on how you can create endless content. Well, when you're walking around, this thing right here, right? This is, a cell phone. We always have one of these with us, right? So what do you do when you have something that pops in your head and you think, oh man, that would be so cool? Do you go whip out a paper notebook out of your pocket? Now, some people you might, and I totally I give you props for that. I would never be able to carry around anything paper in my pockets. I would crumple that thing to bits immediately. My pockets are so shoved full between my wallet, my keys. I don't back pocket anything. So nothing goes back there. So it's all front pocket. So that thing would get crushed. But there's a really cool app. And now just to put it out there, I am not a promoter or partner or affiliate of this application. It's just a really, really nice app. And some of you already probably know where I'm going with this, but it's an app called Evernote. And Evernote is one of the coolest things that I've really come across when it comes to putting content together. And one of the things I'm going to show you here, let me get this pulled up a little bit. And I have a list that's called Facebook Live Topics, right? And you can see here, you can't really see a whole lot, but you can see I've got all these topics that I've basically gone through. Oh, it's hard to see because it's not focusing right. Sorry. So, but anyways, I wonder if I can pull it back here, but maybe you can kind of see right there, but there's all these topics here, right? And all these things are just things that I've jotted down while I'm out and about, things that pop in my head. And maybe I see a poster for a movie, or I see, somebody driving a car that I like, or I smell really good barbecue as I'm driving by, one of the barbecue places here in town, and something sparks in my mind. If you don't write that down somewhere, I mean, shoot, even carry a pen and write it on your hand if you have to, and then put it on paper or onto Evernote when you get home. But if you don't write that down, that's going to just go away. You're going to forget about it, because our brains are not meant to multitask. So what's going to happen is you're going to think about this thing, and it's going to be a great idea. And then someone's going to go, I'm going to pick on Mike since he commented. Someone's going to go, hey, Mike. And you're going to go, what? And that idea went, whew, and it's gone. And you're going to rack your brain later and go, what was it? What was I thinking of? It was so good. Oh man, like what was going on? And it's going to be gone. And now maybe, people with good memories, I don't have the greatest memory in the world, but people with good memories, maybe they turn around and say, I got it. I figured it out. And they write it down, they create their content, and they move on. Awesome. For me, and for probably most people out there, especially busy entrepreneurial people, you're not going to remember that. Let's just be real. It's not going to happen. So step 1, inspiration. Step 2, intention. Find out what your intention is behind that inspiration. Like, what do you want to put that to? And then step 3, write it down. I know it seems super simple, and it's like this. People go, well, duh, that just makes sense. And you're right. It makes perfect sense. But most people don't think about that. They don't think about the 3rd step is write it down, because you'll never realize how much content that you have available in your everyday life that you lose because you don't take the time to just quickly jot it down as you're going on. So that's all I've got for you today. I just wanted to get this out here because it's been helping me out for weeks. Most of our content that goes up there, a lot of it is, I will call it regurgitated content. It's cool stuff that I find as I'm browsing around. But that's the other thing too. There is no shortage of content out there. The web is vast. The interwebs are all over. and everybody out there is putting out great content. Now, obviously, if somebody's name is on it or you saw it on somebody's page, the right thing to do is ask them if you can, borrow that content or, use it on your page or your profile. But in reality, there's so many pages and groups out there that are positive thinking content and things like that. Don't just use their content, use it for inspiration. Use it to be able to build your own content and move your business and your life forward. So my name's Josh. Again, I appreciate you spending the time with me. I'm glad that we were able to spend this time together today on this fabulous Wednesday. And I will see you later on in the week with our Decompress on Sunday and a new topic next week. So stick around and we'll chat soon. Bye.